As the hearing room fell into a tense, expectant silence, Senator John Kennedy leaned forward with that unmistakable sharpness in his voice and dropped the question no one else dared to say out loud: "Are Democrats upset because you've secured the border?" And in that exact moment, the room shifted, eyes widened, chairs stiffened, and even Kristi Noem knew this wasn't a routine political back and forth anymore. This was a direct challenge, a line drawn, a moment that could flip the entire narrative on its head. And what she said next is exactly why this exchange is exploding across every platform. Keep watching because it only gets more intense from here.
Well, I need a little help from a chair that respects the members of the committee. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
You pretty much secured the southern border, haven't you?
Yes, sir. The CBP,
And that upsets some of my colleagues, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They say you've done it the wrong way, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
Could you answer that?
Yes, sir. They do say that.
Do you think they're upset because you supposedly did it the wrong way, or you think they're upset that you did it at all?
I think they're upset that by President Trump enforcing the law, it happened so quickly and successfully.
Yeah. Now, when President Biden came into office, the first thing he did was get rid of all of the things we were doing to stop people from coming into our country illegally, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, it was like The Price is Right. Come on down. Except he said, come on in. And most of my Democratic colleagues went along with that, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.
In fact, they cheered him on, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
How many people do you think President Biden let into our country illegally? Just give me a ballpark figure.
Sir, we don't know for certain, but we believe it could be upwards to 20 million people that are illegally in this country.
So that's like adding 10 Nebraskas to our country, isn't it?
That's correct.
Why do you think President Biden and my Democratic colleagues did that? Do you think they believe in open borders?
I think they believed in open borders and letting people come into this country that would affect our society and criminals. Those other countries emptying out the worst of the worst, their mental institutions, their prisons came in here and jeopardized, and known terrorists.
Well, only one or two circumstances are possible, it seems to me. Either President Biden and the Democrats who supported him believe in open borders, or the people that President Biden put in charge of securing the border, you wouldn't trust to run a snowball stand, right?
That is correct.
So nobody is that incompetent. So it has to be, they just believe in open borders, do they not?
Yes, because I know the people who were securing the border and they weren't allowed to do their job.
Do you think they believe that vetting people at the border is racist?
Yes, I do. I think by the way they allowed people in and granted them immediate parole status.
Do you think that President Biden and some of my Democratic colleagues, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, Madam Secretary, thought of these foreign nationals in our country illegally as potential new voters?
I do, sir.
Okay. If you're an ordinary American and you oppose illegal immigration, but you support legal immigration, does that make you a racist?
No, sir. No, sir, not at all. It just means that you believe there should be a rule of law, and that's what America was built on.
And that's what you've been enforcing, right?
Exactly. We have been following the Constitution and the rule of law in this country.
And I want to be sure I understand, because there's been a lot of confusing testimony here. You've secured the border, have you not?
This administration has, yes, sir.
And some of my colleagues are upset with you.
Yes, sir.
And they say you did it wrong.
Yes, sir.
And do you agree with me that what they're really upset about is that you did it at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to ask you a last question about our federal judiciary. I've said repeatedly that all of us has a moral and a civic obligation to follow federal orders, and I stand by that. But there have been a lot of national injunctions, universal injunctions issued to try to stop you from doing your job. Where were these judges when people were breaking the law and coming into our country illegally? Were any of them speaking up and issuing national injunctions against the Democrats?
I don't believe I can be specific about every single judge, but these judges that now are trying to stop us from enforcing our laws, I don't believe or recall them.
Can you
being
think,
vocal then.
Madam Secretary, of one single solitary federal judge who, when President Biden and my Democratic colleagues, not all of them, but many of them,
Gentleman's time has expired.
Secretary or Senator Murray went on over about 2 minutes, so I'm going to take a minute.
Senator Van Hollen just got shut down.
Yes,
right
if
on
you
the
can,
zeros.
if you can finish your question.
Can you recall one single solitary federal judge?
The moment the cameras blinked awake and the hearing room froze under a thick, electric silence, Senator John Kennedy leaned forward with that deliberate calm that always signals something sharp is coming. And before anyone could brace themselves, he unleashed a question that sliced clean through the political haze. Are Democrats upset because you've secured the border? It didn't land softly, it detonated. Every head snapped up, every staffer paused mid-note, and even Kristi Noem felt the shift, not a shock, but the recognition that this wasn't a routine inquiry, it was a challenge forged for maximum impact. Her posture tightened, her eyes sharpened, and suddenly the room wasn't just a hearing space, it was an arena, the kind where a single exchange can decide the tone of an entire national debate, and everyone knew they were witnessing the start of a clash that would be replayed, analyzed, and dissected long after the microphones went cold. Kristi Noem inhaled slowly, not to steady herself, but to calculate, to evaluate the terrain of the moment. Because Kennedy's question wasn't accidental, it was crafted, loaded, built to provoke and expose. She rested her hands on the table, scanning the room with the calm of someone who understood exactly how explosive her next words could become. And when she answered, she didn't flinch. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who had anticipated this confrontation long before stepping into the room. She began outlining her actions at the border operations, crackdowns, coordination, results each point delivered with precision, each detail acting as both proof and defense. The more she leaned into her accomplishments, the more Kennedy's question grew sharper in the air around her, turning the exchange into a duel of narrative control. Reporters leaned forward, staffers exchanged glances. The tension swelled, not because of disagreement, but because of the unmistakable sense that something meaningful was unfolding. Kennedy watched her with that trademark expression, half polite, half calculating, as if parsing every syllable for weakness or opportunity, and the dynamic between them tightened like a cable pulled to its breaking point. Noem shifted from explanation to assertion, presenting herself not as someone defending policy, but as someone who had stepped into a leadership void others merely discussed. It became clear this was no longer about border numbers or state actions. This was a fight over who held the narrative, who could claim moral authority, who could convince the public that their instincts, not their opponents, aligned with national interest. The hearing room seemed to shrink around them, collapsing into a spotlight focused entirely on the clash of perspectives. Phones discreetly came up. Notes scribbled faster. Even political veterans could feel the gravity of the moment, sensing that this wasn't just testimony, it was political theater at its sharpest. What made the moment so gripping wasn't simply the exchange of words, but the psychological choreography beneath it. Kennedy probing for cracks, testing Noem's composure, pushing at the fragile edges of political messaging, while Noem refused to yield even a millimeter of ground, turning provocation into an opportunity to amplify her stance. Kennedy's small nods, long pauses, and raised eyebrows were calculated punctuation marks designed to intensify the pressure. Noem's steady gaze, measured breath, and controlled pacing were deliberate counters meant to project certainty, and within those micro-movements, the real conflict revealed itself, a battle over perception, narrative ownership, and the power to influence the viewers who would consume this moment not as policy discussion, but as drama, high stakes, unscripted, and deeply reflective of the country's broader tensions. By the time the exchange eased, the air in the room had shifted into something heavier, something more charged. Kennedy had framed the moment as a direct challenge. Noem had transformed it into a declaration, and together they created a clip destined to dominate feeds and spark debates across living rooms and comment sections. What lingered wasn't a victory or defeat, it was the clarity of what the moment exposed about both of them. Kennedy showed the instinct to confront, to slice through political politeness and force the core issue into the open. Noem showed the instinct to stand firm, to convert criticism into credibility, to position herself as someone who acts where others hesitate. And that's what stayed with me. In today's political landscape, the real battleground lies in these moments, these pressure-packed exchanges, where a single question and a single reaction reveal more about leadership, strategy, and character than any prepared statement ever could. And if this moment proved anything, it's that the border debate isn't calming down. It's escalating, pulling figures like Kennedy and Noem deeper into a narrative, growing more dramatic with each passing day.